FlossTube and Stitchy friends. Welcome to the first ever episode of my FlossTube channel. I'm Stitching in my pajamas and I'm happy that you're here. Thanks for stopping and seeing what this is all about. This will mostly be a channel about cross stitch and samplers, both reproduction and antiques, and general needlework stuff maybe. I like doodads and gadgets, so there might be some of that. I like books with samplers and needlework in them, so we might talk about books at times, and who knows what else we'll discuss. I will always have something to drink. Tonight it's water. Next time it might be wine, who knows? But feel free to bring your favorite beverage along and join me for what I hope will be a fun little thing. Why am I stitching in my pajamas, you might say? That is a good question. If you know me from stitching functions or retreats or any place that I'm stitching, especially if it's a more than one day function, I usually pack more pajamas than I pack clothes, because my thought is, if I'm going for stitching, why do I need to do anything else? So if you've seen me, you might have seen me in my pajamas somewhere. But anyway, it's kind of started a couple of years ago when I was entertaining the thought of starting FlossTube. And I was at my yearly stitching function in Texas, where there's a small group of us that get together every year for a fun few days of stitching. And we were talking about, well, if I start a FlossTube channel, what will I call myself? I have no good ideas. And so my friend Robert, who you know from Sylvia's channel, Running with Needles and Scissors, he's been on there. He said to me, he says, the only time I ever see you, you're in your pajamas, so why not stitching in your pajamas? And I thought, well, that's a pretty great idea. So nothing defines me better, so why not? So here I am, stitching in my pajamas. And my current pajamas are from Costco, in case anybody's interested. It's my favorite summer set and can't beat it. Anyway, I digress. So, like I said, maybe I didn't say it, but I'm in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest. I've been here 18 years, and before that it was Texas, before that was Arizona, and originally I'm from Montana. So that's how I got here. I've been married in the next couple of weeks. It'll be 33 years. So we're celebrating that here coming up. My husband David, and I have a daughter who will be a junior in college this fall. She goes to school in Colorado. And we have 2 dogs. So that's where my current family, my little family is all about. But it all started, my needlework journey all started back in Montana when I was probably 8 or 9. My grandmother came to visit from North Dakota, and she taught me stamped embroidery. And I thought, well, this is kind of fun. So I did a lot of pillowcases. I did a lot of tea towels and that kind of stuff. All the stamped stuff that you think of. And then one day, come to find out, we had a cross stitch store in our little town in Montana. And so our mom, my sister and I, she signed us up for a cross stitch class, and it was actually stamped, but we didn't matter to us, because that's all we knew, doing dish towels and that kind of stuff, and pillowcases. So she signed us up and we took this class, and I was probably 10, my sister was probably 6, and we took this class, and I think from that grew my love of needlework. So in case you're interested, This is the very first class we took. As you can see, it's a mess, but at 10, who knew? You can see like hoop marks here, so that's just a good reason to always wash your hands, I guess, because then, 40 years later, it will show up. But if you touch it, you can feel it's full of knots. So that was a technique I learned later not to do. There's discolored thread and whatnot, but this class was, I think, where it really started. My 10-year-old self framed this piece. I was getting it ready for the 4-H fair, and you can see duct tape and cardboard and everything. That's what 10-year-olds use, I guess. I think the frame probably came from a garage sale. But this, I think, is where it all started, and it hangs in my stitching room now just as a constant reminder of where it all began. And, that has been a lifelong love for me. I didn't do much with my stitching in high school and college, but once I graduated from college, then that's when I kind of thought, well, maybe I can get back into my, my cross stitch. And not long after graduating college, my husband and I got married, and we were living in Chandler, Arizona. And we all know what's close to Chandler. But one day on a Saturday, we were driving through Mesa, and I discovered attic needlework. And so I thought, well, let's stop in and see what is going on there. So we went in, and I don't know that Jean was there at the time. It was actually owned by somebody else when I first started going there. But Jean was still, part of it. And so I went in, and they were having a class that was getting ready for a national designer to come, who was Darlene Osteen. So they were going to do a little workshop to teach specialty stitches and whatnot to get ready for her to come. And I thought, well, that would be fun. Let's sign up for that. So I did. And then the class that was held before Darlene came was one of her pieces called the Grapevine Sampler. So you'll see that's dated 1991, and I would have finished this probably close to when the class was, because I was very excited about this. To me, everything about this project was new. I'd never stitched on linen before. I'd never done specialty stitches, and I had never used silk. And this encompassed all three of those things. The grapes here in the middle are queen stitches, and those became my most favorite stitch of all time. So I'm still a huge queen stitch fan, and I stitched lots of them. But everything about this piece I just loved from the beginning. And so I finished it. I framed it on my newly graduated, newly married budget, and it's holding up pretty well, but it too is a reminder of kind of where it all started for me. And this was the very first thing that I stitched that was not just regular cross stitch. So Darlene then came to town, and this was what we did. This is called Flowers of Spring. This is one of her samplers, and again, is one that I love. I see now that I've taken it off the wall that I should probably restretch it, because I see that it's starting to puff out and stuff. Who knows how I framed it the first time. But this whole border with these flowers is all queen stitches. The majority of it is specialty stitches. And I think the Goblin here, I think, is what we use for these satin stitches. That was the first time I'd used anything like that. But most of her stuff was a Vera Soie silk, and a lot of the time she stitched on church linen, 35 count church linen. And I want to say it came from England or Ireland or somewhere over there. and the factory eventually burned down, so then she wasn't able to get it anymore. So, but a lot of her stuff she used to teach on church linen. So needless to say, Darlene probably became my most favorite designer ever. And I have a lot of her pieces stitched. And it all started because of a trip by the attic one Saturday afternoon as I was driving through Mesa. Later on, so you'll see this, so I took it in 91 and I finished it in 92. So who knows, you know, how long it took me to stitch it or how long I actually devoted to it. But in 1992, there was 4 of us from the attic that actually went to Christmas in Williamsburg. It was Jean and myself, and then 2 of our friends. And we took Darlene's Dorcas Hanes as one of our workshops. And this is probably my most favorite piece ever. It was reproduced by Scarlet Letter, and the colors and the stitches aren't very similar between the 2 projects. But this is the one that Darlene charted, and she charted it from the back. And the colors are just so vibrant, and the stitches are pretty authentic because that's what Darlene would do. She would duplicate the stitches the best that she could. And this piece is mostly reversible. But I decided that, you know, after stitching this, eyelets were not my thing. I love queen stitch, but eyelets, I can take them or leave them. So this has eyelets that are over 2 between the alphabet and the verses and her name. And Dorcas finished this Christmas Day in 1720, even though I'm pretty sure Christmas Day didn't appear. Christmas Day wasn't December 25th in 1720, but Christmas in Williamsburg, this was their piece just because of the date on it at the time. But yeah, this is probably one of my most favorites. And actually, this is my most favorite piece that I have stitched. So that is kind of how, to say that the attic has probably been my biggest influence as a young, early stitcher. And now I'm so, I'm just tickled that Jean is still doing well with the shop and that she owns the shop. And, it's such an inspiration to so many stitchers and people out there and it's a destination because it surely was for me that, my inspiration and how I grew into loving samplers and just learning about them and stuff. It all started there. So I'm so glad that it still continues and that people love it as much as I loved it then. And it was probably a good thing that we moved from Arizona in 95, and the attic had just moved to one of their locations that was about a mile from my house at the time. So it was probably good that we ended up moving to Texas for my husband's work, because who knows what would have happened. But anyway, but because of the attic, I think, I collect samplers now, and I collect books, and I have way more charts than I can ever stitch, but, it all comes from my love of learning that and whatnot and starting there. So now that has all kind of progressed into my sister and I, who I've mentioned earlier. Her name is Rebecca, and she and I have decided that we are starting this sampler reproduction business. So we launched it in March at the market, Nashville market. Our company name is My Sister's Samplers. What else would it be? Because she has a collection and I have a collection, and between the 2 of us, we have plenty of samplers that we can draw from, and I'm sure that we have something for everybody, that everybody would like. So we decided that we wanted to share our collections, and the majority of our stuff and the majority of our samplers are ones that might be overlooked by, you know, many people because they're not perfect and they need work, or they're, you know, there's something wrong with them, but we feel that they need to be loved no matter how they look. So we are reproducing them and getting them out there. So our main goal is to support the shops. So we don't sell directly to our customers. We don't sell PDFs or anything like that. We just sell through the shops because our focus is on keeping them in business. So if most of the, you know, most of your favorite local needlework stores have our charts in stock or on hand, and if they don't, we're happy to ship to them. And if you need a list of the shops that have our samplers, then those are just on our website at mysisterssamplers.com. So feel free to look around and see if there's something out there you like. When I'm not doing that, I actually may or may not know that I work for Gloriana Threads. I've been there just a little over a year now. I think my anniversary day was yesterday. But, you know, I've been hearing lately, well, is Gloriana still in business? Has, you know, something happened to Gloriana? And yes, Gloriana is still in business. And I'm happy to say that a lot of the shortages that the shops are running into should be starting to be alleviated now. You know, with COVID happening and all of that, Washington State small businesses were hit really hard compared to some of the other states. And if, you know, if you were a small business, you really weren't allowed to have people working in your, you know, in your small business. You could have, you know, there was one person at a time that could be allowed into the facility. So with small businesses, at least with hand dyeing, you know, you can't really do that remotely. So it was a bit ironic that everybody was getting back into stitching because they had nothing else to do. So the, you know, the demand increased, you know, by just exponential amounts, whereas the, you know, the inventory actually fell because there was nobody to dye it, because nobody was allowed to work. So that was unfortunate, but now we've gotten a lot of our colors back in stock and shipping to stores. So if your store is out of something and they've made an order, then there's a good chance they'll be getting it sooner rather than later. And so I'm happy to say that a lot of the shortages hopefully are coming to an end soon. If there's something that you have a question about or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer it and whatnot. But I'm happy to say that Gloriana is doing well, and that you should be able to get Gloriana threads here fairly soon if you're not already. So let's talk about my whips, I guess. I'd like to thank Sylvia from Running with Needles and Scissors and Lisa, ladyhuzzah, because they were the ones, besides my sister, they were the ones that encouraged me the most to do my FlossTube. And a couple of years ago, Sylvia called out to me, you know, on one of her FlossTubes and says, you know, that I needed to start. And this was just never, I mean, yeah, I said I was going to do it, but it seemed too scary. I wasn't sure this was going to be for me. And then Sylvia organized a stitching retreat for us in upstate New York last December, where we had a stitching day, and actually it wasn't a stitching day, it was a pajama party that we had at Hobby House. And we just had the best time there. But anyway, so we had this little stitching retreat, and Sylvia had us on her FlossTube. And Lisa at the time said that if I did a floss tube, she would do a floss tube. So here we are. She's now on her third floss tube, and I am barely getting started with my first one. So go follow both of them if you haven't already. I'm sure that you're well aware of the two of them, but go watch their floss tubes and enjoy them, because they are fun to watch. So looking at my whips, we will talk about those. Some of the things that I'm thinking about I want to do, I think I mentioned earlier, is I want to do like whips and books and new starts and doodads and things like that. So if you have ideas as to what you'd like me to talk about, who knows, maybe I'll even do some sort of stitch, teach a stitch or something. If people want to learn how to do the queen stitch, I'd be happy to do that. So if you have things that you want me to talk about, just leave that in my comment section below, and I can always add that, because who knows what I'm going to talk about in episode 2. I think I need to save some of my whips for episode 2, because I don't think I have anything else to talk about. So, but anyway, we'll talk about some things, and if you have any ideas, I'm happy to hear them. So my longest whip, or not my longest, I should say my oldest whip, is probably MD 1660, the Unicorn Sampler. This is from Scarlet Letter, and I started this back in, well, it's dated, the copyright on it is 1992, so I think I probably started it 92, 93. We were doing a stitch along at the attic, and I think the rule was that you had to pick a Scarlet Letter piece. I don't think that everybody picked the Unicorn Sampler. I think you just picked a Scarlet Letter piece. So this is the one that I picked. I'm doing it on 40 count. The choice is you could either buy it as a kit with the 35 count or 40 count, but I got the 40 count, and I'm doing it all in DMC, because that's what came in the kit. And again, I was this newly married, fresh out of college budget, and so I was doing DMC. And so this is my project. And here I am at the bottom, and I'm almost out of fabric. And this is why it's been in timeout for over 10 years. Because I got mad at it, because I thought I was going to run out of fabric. And this here, there still needs to be a dividing band, a little dividing band down here. But I was just mad, because I didn't start very, I gave my, it's not like I started very far from the corners, but it's been in timeout for over 10 years, just because I'm mad. But now when I look at the bottom, you'll see that I have another start that I've cut close by my own fault, so now this one might have to come out of timeout. But here's the cut work at the top, and I said at the time that if this cut work had been at the bottom, I might not have stitched it, because it was a challenge for me, but I got through it, and it looks pretty great. And one of the ways you can tell that this is the 40 count fabric instead of the 35 is because on the 35 count, this part, I'm calling it a fleur-de-lis, but I know it's not. That's about this much of it is not there. It doesn't fit because the 35 count is stitched over 2 and the 40 count is stitched over 3. So on the 40 count, you see the whole plant, really. Where on the 35 count you won't. The majority of it is reversible. I've stitched the majority of it reversible. My boxers and stuff down here aren't quite. My detached buttonhole isn't, the outline for my queen stitches. But the majority of it is reversible. You want to see the cut work up close. It's got queen stitches here. Again, they're all over 3. French knots. There's some Montenegrin in here, satin stitch. There's turkey work in this little boxer. I think this boxer's French knots. Detached buttonhole here in the flower base. These are detached buttonhole as well. My flower here is called detached. I call it detached because of the free form. And the, and the petals that are just attached at the base. The chart is supposed to put this flower the same as this one, but if you go to the sampler book by the V&A, it's actually this book right here. This book right here. The sampler is in here, and this is another reason that I got mad, because I saw the original, and I thought, that's not how it's stitched. I've lost my place. But, that's not it. Where is it? Here it is. So you'll see, this is just detached. It's hard to see in this picture, but this is just detached buttonhole, where this is detached. So I will go and just make that detached, and you can see the original boxers here. But so there were some changes to the graph and to the chart that I thought weren't quite close enough to the original. But now that I've had that book for forever, since it came out, I think it's 99. It helps me decide what changes I can make to make it look more authentic. So it might have to come out of timeout, just because when I show you my next whip, you'll see why this one doesn't deserve to be rolled up anymore. So this is probably my oldest whip that I have. Another one that I've started, and this is why I say the one might have to come out of timeout. This is Harriet Salt, 1866, by Hands Across the Sea. And you can see it's a Bristol. It's a common Bristol that is very popular. I started this in 2021 after seeing it at our NSG retreat here locally. Janine from Acorns and Threads will bring some of her stuff from the shop and bring it to our retreat, so I saw it there and I had to have it. And I said to her, but I need some fabric that'll get me close to this original size of Harriet. And so she sent me a piece of weaver's cloth. Weaver's cloth is generally used for punch needle, and I am using it for cross stitch. But you will see what I have done, not on purpose. I have all of this space here, and I have no space here. So for whatever reason, my math was not good. And I have to suspect that the count of this weaver's cloth is 5265. So it's very uneven. And so you'll notice, or maybe you won't notice, but my letters are shorter and wider versus tall and skinny. So I have to wonder if when I started this, if I used the wrong count going across versus if my weft count was really my warp count, and if that's how I messed it up, because I don't know how I could have messed it up so badly. But anyway, I did. So I will eventually, if and when I get this finished, I will probably put ribbon or something on the edge. I'll sew it on, and then I'll end up having to just frame it really, really close here. And then, so to cover up my, my zigzag stitch. And then, but yeah, this is 5265. I came stark white, so I dyed it myself. And then I'm stitching it with Tudor silk, Gloriana Tudor silk in Schoolhouse Red. I started it with Gloriana before I, was working for Gloriana, obviously. But on this count, the Tudor is perfect for it. So you'll see this is on a stretcher bar. Some of my stuff is in hoops, or you know, what is it called? Anyway, but I stitched in hand for decades, and then I decided I have way too much stuff to stitch, not enough years left to live, and I needed a way to stitch faster. So I started stitching, putting my stuff either on scroll rods and frames, or in hoops, or what's the name of the one that I'm forgetting? You know, looks like PVC. Anyway, but yeah, stitching two-handed for me just goes with so much faster, and then I feel like I can be more accomplished in getting stuff done, but we'll see. All right, so one of my next works in process is some designs by Theron. So here is the Quaker sewing case by Theron. She came and taught us this in 2017. And I know that because at the time, she also taught us this. This I finished. It's dated 2017, so I know that's when we did it, but I never got my Quaker pocket done, my Quaker sewing case done. So the thing about Catherine is she really doesn't design anything with just plain cross stitch. This is all specialty stitches, and I just really love it. It's in silk, and it's got the strawberry queen stitch, the queen stitch strawberries, and I just think it's great. So that's how I'm dating my Quaker sewing case project. That's how I know when it started. So this is what it looks like. This is the inside. So the outside is this. All of this flame stitch, and I have no idea looking at it if this is upside down or not. Maybe this is right side up. But until I put it together, I won't remember for sure. I'm guessing this might be right side up. But anyway, this is the outside of the case, all of this flame stitch. And I did this on the way to, or I worked on this a couple of years ago. We went to, a group of us went to Salty Yarns in Ocean City, Maryland to take a 3-day workshop from her and from Catherine, and we decided that, okay, I decided that if I'm going to, excuse me, if I'm going to start 3 new projects of hers, then maybe I should get one done. Well, it's not done yet, but I've at least gotten the outside of it done, and if I can find the inside, wherever I put it. Who knows where it is? Not sure. It's lost all of a sudden. Oh well. We'll go on to the next one. But it can't be far. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is, I got the scissor part here done, as well as this pocket. But so far that's it. Again, this is what it looks like. So yeah, so I've got this mostly stitched. I'm just adding the date. I had to chart the date. This I'm working on, and then these 2 pieces I still have left to do. So that is my Quaker sewing box, sewing case by Theron. And one of the projects that we took from her that weekend was a lady's sewing roll. what I discovered about these pieces of Catherine's is they're great for the airplane. I can stitch in hand with these. They don't take up a lot of space, and it works out really well. So here is the sewing roll, the outside of it that I've gotten all stitched, and then I'm working on the pockets. I keep putting it upside down. So the outside of the sewing roll, the berries are satin stitch, spiral trellis, and road stitch. And I must say that by the time you're done stitching the spiral trellises on this piece, you will be an expert. But do not be intimidated by spiral trellis, because it is not difficult. And Catherine does a great job explaining how to do it. The original chart said Boston across the top, and I wanted to commemorate our trip to Ocean City and to Salty Yarns. So I put Ocean City there the best I could, but I'm not sure I love it. So if you have any ideas as to how to put Ocean City on there, or if you've done it because you took the class, I would be interested to hear. And then this down here is just going to be where my name goes. And I think there's no, the date's up there. I don't know. I know my name goes right here, but I don't know what else might go there. So that is the Lady Sewing Roll, also by Catherine Theron. So now let's see, I think one of the books that I wanted to share with you is called Willing Hands 2 by Betsy Morgan. You may have seen Cindy Scott recently. I think she was on Fiber Talk, and she had her box or her casket. I'm not sure if it's called a casket or a box. And it's on Willing Hands 1 because I think it's the cover picture of the book. But these are great books. They were published by Inspirations magazine, and I highly recommend them. And in this book, you'll see the projects that are included are mostly etuis, pockets, and little bags and that kind of thing. And the reason that I want to share this book with you is because of the Be Contained. And the reason I wanted to share that with you is because I wanted to show you my Be Contained. This was something that Betsy came and taught us at the NSG. It was a workshop that NSG scheduled with her in September or October of 2019, right before COVID. So when COVID hit and we couldn't go anywhere, I'll put it upside. Hold it upside so you can see my name and whatnot. When we couldn't go anywhere, I thought, well, I can get this finished. Why not? I can do this. So on the inside, you have your scissor fob. And I like doodads and fun stuff, so I've got a pair of bee scissors and I put a bunch of bling on it because I like that. It has a ruler. Isn't that cute? It has a pin cushion. Has a bee skip with a little bee on the top. And then it's rolled up wool on the inside. I think the body of it, if I remember correctly, is the plastic piece from a spool of pearl cotton. So if you ever have a plastic spool of pearl cotton, don't throw it away. You can use it for a pin cushion. A needle book with the bee skip on the outside. Felt pads. What else we got in here? Oh yeah, a little floss winder. Let's see if I got, yeah, that's right. And then with the little button on the back. The same button she used as the closure on the front. a waxer with the little black buttons and the little ribbon. And then I got from her as extra these little floss winders. Oops, these little floss winders. So those were, they just kind of made up my set. And then I got from her also the little B buttons that I put on the outside. And there's one on this side. And then as part of the NSG class, we got this big bumblebee needle minder, so I just put mine on there. And then shortly, I don't know, sometime after I finished my Be Contained, I had ordered linen or something from XG Design. And she, you know, if you've ever ordered from her, she will send you little swatches of stuff. And she sent me this swatch of 32 count daffodil. The project was stitched on 32 count sunflower. And when this came, I thought this is a perfect replica almost to the sunflower. And so I wanted to let you know that if you ever decide you want to do Be Contained, because I know that at the time she wasn't able to teach it all over, you know, where she wanted to teach it for different reasons. So if you never got to take Be Contained and you want to, I suggest the 32 count daffodil from XG Design as a fabric choice for your Be Contained. So just passing along that little tidbit. A new start that I have is actually for our reproduction company, and it is called Selena Dineen, and she was 5 years old. Let's see if I have something I can put behind here. So it's stitched. It doesn't say actually what year she stitched it, just that she was 5. But at the bottom, somebody had decided to put her death date on it. So I don't know how old she was when she died. I don't know where she was. I can find one person by this name, but the year doesn't match up for me. I do a lot of genealogy kind of stuff too. And when I look for this little girl, the year isn't right. So I'm not sure yet if I can find out who she was exactly. But here is my start of that chart. So far I've only got it charted. I haven't charted the words yet. I've only kind of got the words started. I've charted the outline though of the outer border, and then the house and whatnot I've got charted. But I'm trying to decide and I'm charting it from the back, if I want to go with this orangey color in the middle of this red flower or the more of the pink one. My friend Becky suggested this pink, and I think that's what I'm going to use. But if you have an input, I would appreciate it. This is, I'm just stitching it with DMC actually. And I'm stitching it on 46 count fabric. It is, if I have my tag here, oh well. It's on, yeah, here it is. Number 12 Stitch Co. from, I think she's Australian. And I'm stitching it Russian Caramel. So that's my start. So be looking for that maybe later this year, maybe mark it next year, who knows. We'll see how fast I can actually get it stitched. One of the things that I'm thinking about starting new is this little friendship sampler right here by Brenda Gervais. My sister and my mom and I are signed up for a stitching retreat in Montana, not far from where we grew up. in September. And the Smalls Exchange is houses. So I think I'm going to, I think this would be a good choice. Isn't that cute? I have the little tin frame for it. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet, so it just depends on how big it turns out to be. So that's what I'm thinking about doing for that. Some of my recent haul that I've gotten. I was at my NSG retreat in early June, and my friend Tracy, who you know as Tracy Stitches on Instagram, she had a project roll bag that I had been eyeing the company because I had seen her on Etsy, and I'm like, do I need that? Do I need that? And I have a couple of smaller roll project bags from that NSG gave away as favors from their retreats. But I saw Tracy's and I decided I had to have one. So this is my project roll bag. And I love it. It is by, there we are, Stitching Bunny Bags, I can never remember, on Etsy. And this is the extra long one. I'm not sure what the regular length is, but this is the extra long one, just mostly because I never know how big of the samplers are going to be that I need to carry around. And it has this nice pretty ribbon that goes on both ends. That was tied up so nicely, but anyway, I just love this. So if you're in the need of a project roll bag, I highly recommend that one. The other thing that I got was, I love to camp, and my husband and I do a lot of camping. And I saw Happy Campers from Blue Flower. And I thought, I'm always looking for a project to stitch while we're camping, so this is a great choice. So I bought that. And then I had to have a camping bag, right? Who doesn't? This is by Fab Shabby Rose on Etsy. Comes with the little thread book. And so I've bought from her a couple of times because I just love her fabrics in her bags. So just as an FYI, if you need a stitching bag, I highly recommend those. And then I was at StitchCon Weekend B a few weeks ago. I guess it's probably closer to 6 weeks now. And I participated in the Smalls Exchange. And the gal who I got, I lost her card. Anyway, her name is Kathleen, and didn't she give me the best card? I think it's handmade. Her Instagram name is Snickerdoodle Stitch, and she made me this fabulous stand-up with Blackbird Designs, an out-of-print chart with the fabric on the back. Also Blackbird fabric. And then she made me this bag. And the little fob to go with it. Isn't it sweet? So I really lucked out with my Smalls Exchange. And I had such a great time at StitchCon, and hello to all my StitchCon friends. But that was super fun. I think the only thing I have left to do is to share one of my favorite gadgets. Right now the craze on Instagram for stitching people are the travel jewelry cases. So this is mine, and I just love it. It's from Target, and what I love about these Target cases is they come fully lined with whatever color it is, and so really all you have to do is put fabric in this middle section. At least that's what I did. I took out the ring holder that was here, and I took a piece of, it's thicker than cardstock. It's almost like a cereal box cardboard. I put a piece of Warm and Natural on it, and then I covered it with a piece of fabric and glued that to the back of it. And then I just put the whole thing into the bottom of my case. I didn't glue it in, it's just sitting in there, but it's not gonna come out, so you don't have to worry about that. And then some people that use this particular Target case, they'll remove this snap-in little plastic case, but I left mine in there because it holds my floss drops. It holds little clips that I use to wrap around the tea towel that I'll sometimes put around my scroll frame. I have some Post-its. But yeah, and then I can just keep my little doodads in here. Like this is lotion that I got from ladyhuzzah when we were on our retreat, and a little stitching fob from 5 Times Blessed on Etsy. These are some of my favorite scissors. They're super small and it's super sharp, but they're very inexpensive. And then needle threader, my little teapot waxer that my sister gave me. My little tomato pincushion that she also gave me, as well as my little gnome needle minder. I love gnomes. So, but very simple. The other thing that I love about these Target cases is that they lay flat. Sometimes you'll get the cases, like I've done some from Amazon, that have the little ribbon that hold the top and the bottom together. And if you don't have enough weight in the bottom and too much weight in the top, they'll tip over. But this one here, I can just lay flat either on my stitching chair or on a table, and it works great. The one that I made for my sister, I got from Amazon, and it's rectangle. It's quite a bit bigger than this, but it's rectangle. And I took out all of the compartments, so it was just a bare bottom to it. And then it was cream colored on the inside, so I took fabric. I would use the similar fabric to this Blackbird print, and it was the blue though. And then I made a banding that I put around the edge or the lip, and then I set the bottom into it. Again, very simple. It did take a little more work because I put that banding around the outside, but very simple. And pink is not my color, but because I have everything matching and whatnot, this has become one of my favorite things, and I just love it. And it's just fun to have. I mostly use it for travel, but I use it just to, in my stitching chair too, just because it has everything I need. So, very inexpensive, especially if you can find them on sale at Target. I was at TJ Maxx when I was at StitchCon, and I found a little square one at TJ Maxx for like $4 or something. So you can find all kinds of sizes, all kinds of colors, Amazon, TJ Maxx, and all kinds of places. So I highly recommend doing that. But this has gone on way long enough, and I appreciate you watching. And whenever I decide to do this again, I hope you'll come back. And until next time, have yourself a drink, keep your stitching, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.